Hey there, John Gubbs at Dakota Grappler, going live here at the state wrestling tournament, so you might hear some background noise a little bit, but the microphone picked things up fine. With me tonight, I have Roger Kish, NDSU's wrestling coach, longtime University of Minnesota wrestler, got lots of things I could ask. You know, D1's a big step. You guys have really turned it on since January. You guys have only lost one duel since basically the Wyoming duels, the last two you guys lost. Then you guys have been on a roll. Tell me what the kind of the turnaround is for your teams this year.
You know, we've done a great job making some minor adjustments in our training, but overall just finding consistency and trying to focus on the things that you know, don't take a whole lot of gifts, right? Just our attitude, our confidence, and the effort that we wrestle with. So a lot of the things that we really focus on is you know, we don't need technique. It's something everyone can possess. And so we really focus on a lot of these key words as we approach our workouts and our training and our preparation, and they do a great job, you know. So we've done a great job at finding consistency, and not just in training, but in our attitudes and in our diets, in you know, just the effort and confidence that we put out there on a daily basis, whether it's in the track or on the wrestling mats or the weight room or wherever it is, right? So these guys have just really been models of consistency, and their successes are ultimately a reward for what they were capable of. So really proud of the changes that they've made.
That's good. I also feel you guys are really picking their intensity. You know, you're aggressive on the mat. You're not waiting for people to come to you. You're taking it to them. Notice, you know, you have a big turnaround since the Wyoming duel. You have two big duels left, and then you start getting into your, you know, the Big 12 and everything else. So you have NDSU coming up. That's next week.
Friday. It's tomorrow.
Oh, it's tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah.
Boy, time flies. What are you looking forward to there? You guys can, you know, what's the big matchups?
Yeah, you know, more so than the matchups, I think what we really look for is an opportunity to wrestle in a tough environment, right? And South Dakota State has done a great job at creating an environment that is challenging for the opponents and the opposition. And you know, I think as we prepare for postseason, having the opportunity to wrestle in these hostile environments and being the underdog, and, you know, I think these are great learning moments and great moments of preparation for our guys as we enter postseason. So more so than the matches, we're excited to wrestle in a tough environment and being the underdog and some of those things that you know, we're excited for. You know, that's I think really what's allowed our guys to stay focused and kind of embrace that.
So this time of the year, is it kind of a time when you're bringing intensity, shorter practices? What has kind of been your role as a coach for your guys in the role? You know, are you bringing it so you know, technique you've already done, not concerned about that so much? You know, what's your main focus as a coach? You know, are you going individual battles with each individual wrestler? You know, kind of tweaking little things.
Yeah.
What's your main focus?
You know, at this point, it's, again, like we said, it's finding consistency, and that has always been our key, is to be able to wrestle day in and day out. The moment we walk into the room, that switch turns on and off, right? We walk into the restroom, that switch turns on, our excitement immediately rises, our confidence immediately goes up, the fight, that physical and mental warfare begins, and trying to have this positivity is really what we focus on, and the techniques that we look at is where our individuals are and the adjustments they need to make, where our team is and the adjustments that they need to make from week to week. So typically this time of year, it's not necessarily introducing any new ideas or techniques. It's just small adjustments, small tweaks, and ultimately it's growing IQ, wrestling IQ, whether it's positional or technical. It's growing wrestling IQ, so we become not just better technicians, but smarter wrestlers, and we understand the moment that our athletes are in, and we can help them understand the moment better. And we've seen a couple areas where you know, we might just lose the the moment, and we saw that here a couple weeks ago when we were out in Utah, where we probably had some matches won, but end up losing in the moment. Not because we got out wrestled, but probably because we got a little bit outsmarted. And so
the Mets match a little bit.
Yeah.
The Mets was in that too.
So it's a great example, right? So and utilizing those is great learning moments, so our guys can help understand the wrestling IQ grows and where they're at in matches, so they can build on that. So I think those are really key moments for these guys.
Because we know, let's just go back to that Mets match. We've always known Mets can throw, and he had that opportunity when he threw him. It's a ranked wrestler, and then he didn't take it to him anymore. He kind of stayed defensive, and then
paid a price.
Paid a price for it.
Yep. So
true.
Yeah, and it's great for Brandon. I believe if he's put in that same position today, then he would make different adjustments, and he would adjust it differently. But again, it's the growing pains that you kind of learn through, and this was a growing pain for Brandon. But I'm glad it happened now and not in March, right? So we're happy to learn those lessons, and right now we're not necessarily losing matches on effort or confidence. It's just small technical things that we're able to take to the wrestling room and make the adjustments.
Okay, so let's look into next season. Now, what's going to be your biggest area where you're trying to recruit? Lightweights, where you're looking? Because I know 25 has been kind of subject a little bit this year. What areas are you really going to have to focus on as guys graduate?
No, that's a good question. Not necessarily the areas that we're trying to recruit, but for us, it's finding the young man that fits the model that we want. So we talk about recruiting. We work really hard to create a great culture of wrestling. You guys get a great match going on.
I know. It's loud over here a little bit.
You guys are doing a great job out there. But it's not necessarily the weight classes that we're looking for. We want to find the young men that fit the mold, fit the culture that we've built, and the type of athlete that we look for, and with those high characteristics, high morals, and kids that really work hard and have huge ceilings and love to work out and love to grow and have high expectations for themselves.
Impressive what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
Frantic, for an example, North Dakota boy. To me, I've always thought he was a model, and boy, he's really gotten strong. It's fun watching. Hoping that he takes that next step, because I think he's so close to stepping into maybe getting to the Nationals or something.
Yeah, no, and he is. Jared's a great example. He has been an example that he's a great example of what North Dakota State wrestling is and what the standard is for Bison wrestling in our program, right? And he lives a great lifestyle and he does things the right way, and for that he's had success. And again, there's really no limit to how far he can take his success, but he's got all the tools, and he's been a great leader in our program, and we're really excited for where he is, and he's going to continue to grow. We're really excited for Jared.
Now I'm going to take you about 2 minutes out of NDSU.
Yep.
Where did you first start wrestling? A little bit there. What's your first memory of wrestling? Where did you start out?
My first memory of wrestling, and I imagine it's probably a similar story to a lot of young boys, and I was lucky to have a brother who was a year and a half older than I was. And as any, we were two boys in a small house, and so what do two kids do? They find things to compete. They were always competing with one another, and it was the WWF wrestling, World Wrestling Federation, and so that was like every Wednesday night at our house. Like, let's go home, let's watch those old heroes, and so that's how it started, wrestling. That was wrestling to us, and it wasn't until one day, I think I was maybe 6 or 7 years old, my brother 8 or 9, and my father comes home and goes, "Hey guys, do you guys want to wrestle?" Me and my brother. We said, "Yeah, of course."
And where are you at this time?
Pardon me?
What town-wise?
We are in a town called Davison, Michigan.
Okay.
And for those wrestling junkies out there, you're probably real familiar, synonymous with elite wrestling over there. Your guys like Brent Metcalf, John Reeders, Paul Donohoes, these guys who've come out of this program. They got some elite kids coming out of their program currently. So this is where we're at, and they have a good little youth program up the road. So our father says, "Hey, let's go wrestle." And you know, my brother and I expect we're going to walk into the arena, and there's going to be turnbuckles and a platform, and this is all we know. And so we got educated quick. But again, it was one of those love at first sights. We absolutely fell in love with the sport,
and you fell into the right culture, the right people, a tough program, and you learned the right steps.
100%. So again, it's been that was the start of it for us.
So your dad didn't wrestle.
He had some high school experience, but it started and stopped with his high school experience. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. And then when it came to you going to college, and you decided to go to the University of Minnesota, what were your choices, and what did kind of turn to there at that point?
Yeah, the recruiting process. First, it was a lot different back then than it is today. Today's a different world, right? But that was a long time ago, and so the recruiting process for me at the time, I was real fortunate to have some really great opportunities, and I remember speaking a lot with guys like Jay Robinson, of course. Bobby Douglas. I got to know Bobby Douglas out at Iowa State very well. Jim Zaleski was then at Iowa.
Yep.
And so I got to know these guys. Joe McFarland was over at the University of Michigan. So I talked with these guys a lot, and I was really fortunate to spend a lot of time with these coaches. And for me, it was a lot like anything. Minnesota just came away with 10 All-Americans, something that is still to this day very, very, very hard to think about. Really, that's just a tough.
So what year is that? What year is that about?
Oh, well, that must have been 2000, 2001 there,
okay.
Or 99, 2000.
Okay.
Yeah, right there. And so to see the 10 All-Americans was unbelievable,
mm-hmm.
right? This is something that no one's ever accomplished in the past, and didn't look like it was going to happen ever again. But you're starting to see that there's opportunities. You might start seeing that here soon.
Mm-hmm.
I know Iowa's got a very strong squad. So, but again, it would still be an impressive feat. But when it came down to it, I was really fortunate to really find a mentor that I felt really strongly about, and Jay Robinson and his coaching staff. Again, I had a lot of confidence in as I got to know them. Marty Morgan, Joe Russell. These guys are for me. These guys are just extraordinary people and big mentors, and guys that have helped me in my career, and personally good friends of mine still to this day. And when you look at the coaching staff that they developed and the success that the programs had, and then you take one more piece, and you look at who am I personally going to train with, and who can I surround myself with to have success. And at the time, I look at guys like Marty Morgan, who's still young in his coaching career, and he's a multiple NCAA champion, both at North Dakota State and at the University of Minnesota. Yes.
His freshman year.
Yeah. So a lot of people don't know that.
Right before my time at SU. Yeah.
And then you got guys like Tim Hartung, who's multiple NCAA champion, Brandon Agam, who was I think just coming off of a world silver medal.
The early 2000s, they had one of the best coaching staffs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. And
there was a lot of changes happening all the way across. You see the coaching moving and Dan Gable being done, and
absolutely, and even my colleague and competitor, and a friend of mine, Damian Hahn as well, right?
Okay, yep.
And he's another great example of just the type of talent, right? And so I'm looking at my partners and I'm saying, well, Marty Morgan and Tim Hartung and Brandon Agam and Damian, and
they're only going to make you better.
Exactly. So I'm putting myself in a great situation with successful people, and that was something that really meant a lot to me. And so,
remember the first time you made the varsity and you're going out there on the mat, that type of situation. Where was your first, let's say, D1 experience when it came to a duel? Did you have any big?
Man, that's a good question. Probably like any freshman, I imagine that the nerves and the excitement and walking out into
you don't have that big revelation of you stepping out there for the.
I mean, maybe not that, but like any college match, you always just felt excited. But that very first, I guess I couldn't even remember who it was against. It was a long time ago, first match. But I know every time I got a chance to wrestle over at the pavilion or out at the barn, man, it was magical, right? Cool experience for myself, and I was fortunate enough to have great teammates and a great culture there. So it was a really great experience.
Well, this is probably the closest you'll get to see the D1s this year. Get to go to Minneapolis, where in fact we'll probably have the biggest group this area. Because I tell you what, I don't know a person that isn't in my realm not going.
Yeah.
Love to be, see a lot of NDSU guys. In reality, the dream would be to take the whole team, but in reality,
certainly.
How many guys would you see right now that you really think could make it this year? Can you pick 6? Would 6 be a satisfied number, or is there a satisfied number?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I don't know if there's a number I have in mind. Like you said, anything less than 10 would certainly be disappointing from a coaching perspective, and you certainly carry that expectation. I know anything less, then we're going to have disappointed coaches. We're going to have disappointed athletes, and it affects the whole squad. So, our goal is always to get 10 guys there. And do we have the opportunity? I believe we do. I mean, is it going to be harder for some than others? Absolutely. There's no doubt about it, right? But I believe they have the opportunity, and being a part of the Big 12, there's certainly a great wrestling there where you can go in and have a great weekend and position yourself to compete at the NCAA tournament.
Okay, then one more.
Yeah.
Transition coming to NDSU. Now, got to think of this. NDSU going D1 was always a big step, and wasn't sure if it was going to be able to handle it financially, be able to handle it with the athletes and the culture. Big difference between D2 and D1, and it was definitely a step up. And I know you came here first as kind of Bucky's grad assistant type thing. But what was the biggest transition coming to NDSU? What's the hardest? Was it changing the culture? Was it getting the athletes? What was the hardest thing actually? Because you got to pull from your area, and kind of Minnesota's been able to dominate the recruiting.
Sure.
So I think it was a big step for you coming here.
I think the hardest thing at first was probably doing things one way. My college and coaching experience over at Minnesota, and seeing a different philosophy in place, right? So for me it goes, well, that's different. I never done it that way, but then you kind of recognize the bigger picture. You're learning. You're always learning and growing. And Bucky Mon was a great developer of men, and he had very high expectations. And he was, one of my favorite things about Bucky is he would always tell you exactly how he felt. And that's a quality.
Lots of stories.
Yeah, right. So. So I learned a lot from Bucky, and one of the biggest challenges was, well, this is not how I always done it, but now I'm learning a different way of doing things. And so me, I'm kind of maybe I did it wrong. You know what I mean? Maybe and so, but at the end of the day, you learn a little bit from Jay Robb and Marty Morgan, and Joe Russell, and Bucky Mon, and so many people that have influenced my personal coaching philosophies and what we want to be and where our standards are. So at first that was kind of the new thing, right? It was a different program. It was some different philosophies in place, and so being able to make the adjustments and grow in a different way was certainly new for me.
Definitely.
I don't know about tough, but different.
Well, you surrounding yourself with the right people makes a huge difference, because
absolutely.
They say you're the average of the people around you, kind of one of those motivational things.
Sure.
And putting yourself in the center of that and having people gather around you, are you going one way or the other? I've seen big strides with NDSU. I really feel that when you start looking at programs across the nation, I would say this is probably one of the best, most improved. Except me being a lifelong Iowa fan, who's really kind of made some steps, because Penn State has ruled for many, many years.
Yeah.
How about this?
Yeah.
Toughest wrestler you ever wrestled?
The toughest wrestler I've ever wrestled.
Win or lose, it doesn't matter there.
That's a good question. Man, I tell you what, I don't know about toughest, but I mean, maybe he is the toughest. I mean, but I remember watching the young man develop, and just really appreciating the rival that him and I built, and his name is Jake Varner. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
Yeah, no, never. Yeah.
But I've always been a big fan. We've competed a lot against one each other. We've built quite a nice rivalry, right? And I've always just kind of enjoyed how tough of a kid he was, right? And watching him, I was a little bit older, so I got to watch him kind of come in, and I've not only have I seen, but I felt his improvements, both his technical and physical improvements. And I've been on the winning end and on the losing end of those matches. So yeah, but I've just always embraced how tough of a young man he is, and because of that, he's one that had great success, and I've always really respected him, and always appreciated the things that he's done to maximize his success, and that's a lot of fun. I'm happy.
Well, I tell you what, awesome interviewing you.
Yeah, great.
I hope you have a great rest of the season and longevity, whatever you want to even say.
Yeah, you got it.
You appreciate everything
it.
you do for wrestling in the state.
Yeah, thank
It's
you.
Awesome. Guys, again, Dakota Grappler will be on a lot tomorrow. I will update everything later tonight with all the Class A and Class B quarterfinal stuff. So if you guys come back and watch, we'll have a lot more people. You guys have a great week.